Hi, it's Beth. Welcome to 2 Kings 22:11. When the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his clothes. Reading the Bible with Apocrypha to you in a year. Today we are in Genesis chapters 29 to 31. After Jacob resumed his journey, he came to the land of the Kedemites. Looking about, he saw a well in the open country with 3 flocks of sheep huddled near it, for flocks were watered from that well. A large stone covered the mouth of the well. When all the shepherds were assembled there, they would roll the stone away from the mouth of the well and water the sheep. Then they would put the stone back again in its place over the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" "We are from Haran," they replied. Then he asked them, "Do you know Laban, son of Nahor?" "We do," they answered. He inquired, "Is he well?" "He is," they answered. "And here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." Then he said, "There is still much daylight left. It is hardly the time to bring animals home. Water the sheep and then continue pasturing them." They replied, "We cannot until all the shepherds are here to roll the stone away from the mouth of the well. Then we can water the flocks." While he was still talking with them, Rachel arrived with her father's sheep, for she was the one who tended them. As soon as Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his mother's brother Laban, and the sheep of Laban, he went up, rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well, and watered Laban's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative, Rebekah's son. So she ran to tell her father. When Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him. After embracing and kissing him, he brought him to his house. Jacob then repeated to Laban all these things, and Laban said to him, "You are indeed bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh." After Jacob had stayed with him a full month, Laban said to him, "Should you serve me for nothing just because you are a relative of mine? Tell me what your wages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. The older was called Leah, the younger Rachel. Leah had dull eyes, but Rachel was shapely and beautiful. Because Jacob loved Rachel, he answered, "I will serve you for 7 years, for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban replied, "It is better to give her to you than to another man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, yet they seemed to him like a few days because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, that I may consummate my marriage with her, for my term is now completed." So Laban invited all the local inhabitants and gave a banquet. At nightfall, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he consummated the marriage with her. Laban assigned his maidservant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as her maidservant. In the morning, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, "How could you do this to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why did you deceive me?" And Laban replied, "It is not the custom in our country to give the younger daughter before the firstborn. Finish the bridal week for this one, and then the other one will also be given to you in return for another 7 years of service with me." Jacob did so. He finished the bridal week for the one, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel as a wife. Laban assigned his maidservant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her maidservant. Jacob then consummated his marriage with Rachel also, and he loved her more than Leah. Thus he served Laban another 7 years. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he made her fruitful, while Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and bore a son, and she named him Reuben, for she said, "It means the Lord saw my misery. Surely now my husband will love me." She conceived again and bore a son, and said, "It means the Lord heard that I am unloved, and therefore he has given me this one also." So she named him Simeon. Again she conceived and bore a son, and she said, "Now at last my husband will become attached to me, since I have now borne him 3 sons." That is why she named him Levi. Once more she conceived and bore a son, and she said, "This time I will give thanks to the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. Then she stopped bearing children. When Rachel saw that she had not borne children to Jacob, she became envious of her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children or I shall die." Jacob became very angry with Rachel and said, "Can I take the place of God, who has denied you the fruit of your womb?" She replied, "Here is my maidservant Bilhah. Have intercourse with her, and let her give birth on my knees, so that I too may have children through her." So she gave him her maidservant Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob had intercourse with her. When Bilhah conceived and bore a son for Jacob, Rachel said, "God has vindicated me. Indeed, he has heeded my plea and given a son." Therefore she named him Dan. Rachel's maidservant Bilhah conceived again and bore a second son for Jacob. And Rachel said, "I have wrestled strenuously with my sister, and I have prevailed." So she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had ceased to bear children, she took her maidservant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. So Leah's maidservant Zilpah bore a son for Jacob. Leah then said, "What good luck!" She named him Gad. Then Leah's maidservant Zilpah bore a second son to Jacob. And Leah said, "What good fortune! Because women will call me fortunate." So she named him Asher. One day during the wheat harvest, Reuben went out and came upon some mandrakes in the field, which he brought home to his mother Leah. Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." Leah replied, "Was it not enough for you to take away my husband, that you must now take away my son's mandrakes too?" Rachel answered, "In that case, Jacob may lie with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." That evening, when Jacob came in from the field, Leah went out to meet him. She said, "You must have intercourse with me, because I have hired you with my son's mandrakes." So that night he lay with her, and God listened to Leah. She conceived and bore a fifth son to Jacob. Leah said, "God has given me my wages for giving my maidservant to my husband." So she named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. And Leah said, "God has brought me a precious gift. This time my husband will honor me, because I have borne him six sons." So she named him Zebulun. Afterwards she gave birth to a daughter. She named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel. God listened to her and made her fruitful. She conceived and bore a son, and she said, "God has removed my disgrace." She named him Joseph, saying, "May the Lord add another son for me." After Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Allow me to go to my own region and land. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I served you, and let me go, for you know the service that I rendered you." Laban answered him, "If you will please, I have learned through divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you." He continued, "State the wages I owe you, and I will pay them." Jacob replied, "You know what work I did for you, and how well your livestock fared under my care. The little you had before I came has grown in abundance, since the Lord has blessed you in my company. Now when can I do something for my own household as well?" Laban asked, "What should I give you?" Jacob answered, "You do not have to give me anything, if you do this thing for me. I will again pasture and tend your sheep. Let me go through your whole flock today and remove from it every dark animal among the lambs and every spotted or speckled among the goats. These will be my wages. Hence, in the future, whenever you check on my wages, my honesty will testify for me. Any animal that is not speckled or spotted among the goats or dark among the lambs got into my possession by theft." Laban said, "Very well, let it be as you say." That same day Laban removed the streaked and spotted he-goats and all the speckled and spotted she-goats, all those with some white on them, as well as every dark lamb, and he put them in the care of his sons. Then he put a 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob was pasturing the rest of Laban's flock. Jacob, however, got some fresh shoots of poplar, almond, and plane trees, and he peeled the white stripes in them by laying bare the white core of the shoots. The shoots that he had peeled, then he set upright in the watering troughs when the animals came to drink, so that they would be in front of them. When the animals were in heat, they came to drink. These goats mated by the shoots, and so they gave birth to streaked, speckled, and spotted young. The sheep, on the other hand, Jacob kept apart, and he made these animals face the streaked or completely dark animals of Laban. Thus he produced flocks of his own, which he did not put with Laban's flock. Whenever the hardier animals were in heat, Jacob would set the shoots in the troughs in full view of these animals, so that they mated by the shoots. But with the weakest animals, he would not put the shoots there. So the feeble animals would go to Laban, but the hardy ones to Jacob. So the man grew exceedingly prosperous, and he owned large flocks, male and female servants, camels, and donkeys. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob has taken everything that belonged to our father, and he has produced all this wealth from our father's property." Jacob perceived, too, that Laban's attitude towards him was not what it had previously been. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your ancestors, where you were born, and I will be with you." So Jacob sent for Rachel and Leah to meet him in the field where his flock was. There he said to them, "I have noticed that your father's attitude towards me is not as it was in the past, but the God of my father has been with me. You know well that with all my strength I served your father. Yet your father cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. God, however, did not let him do harm to me. Whenever your father said, 'The speckled animals will be your wages,' the entire flock would bear speckled young. Whenever he said, 'The streaked animals will be your wages,' the entire flock would bear streaked young. So God took away from your father's livestock and gave it to me. Once, during the flock's mating season, I had a dream in which I saw he-goats mating that were streaked, speckled, and mottled. In the dream, God's angel said to me, Jacob, and I replied, Here I am. Then he said, Look up and see. All the he-goats that are mating are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all the things that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a sacred pillar and made a vow to me. Switch Beth changed the tree. Get up now, leave this land, and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah answered him, Do we still have an heir's portion in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as outsiders? He not only sold us, he's even used up the money that he got for us. All the wealth that God took away from our father really belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has told you. Jacob proceeded to put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove off all his livestock and all the property he had acquired in Paddan Aram to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Now Laban was away shearing his sheep, and Rachel had stolen her father's household images. Jacob had hoodwinked Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he was going to flee. Thus he fled with all he had. Once he was across the Euphrates, he headed for the hill country of Gilead. On the third day, word came to Laban that Jacob had fled. Taking his kinsman with him, he pursued him for 7 days, until he caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. But that night God appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and said to him, Take care not to say anything to Jacob. When Laban overtook Jacob, Jacob's tents were pitched in the hill country. Laban also pitched his tents in the hill country of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, How could you hoodwink me and carry off my daughters like prisoners of war? Why did you dupe me by stealing away secretly? You did not tell me. I would have set you off with joyful singing, to the sound of tambourines and harps. You did not even allow me a parting kiss to my daughters and grandchildren. Now what you have done makes no sense. I have it in my power to harm all of you. But last night the God of your father said to me, Take care not to say anything to Jacob. Granted that you had to leave because you were longing for your father's house. But why did you steal my household gods? Jacob replied to Laban, I was frightened at the thought that you might take your daughters away from me by force. As for your gods, the one you find them with shall not remain alive. If, with our kinsmen looking on, you identify anything here as belonging to you, take it. Jacob had no idea that Rachel had stolen the household images. Laban then went in and searched Jacob's tent and Leah's tent, as well as the tents of the 2 maidservants, but he did not find them. Leaving Leah's tent, he went into Rachel's. Meanwhile, Rachel had taken the household images, put them inside a camel's saddlebag, and seated herself upon them. When Laban had rummaged through her whole tent without finding them, she said to her father, Do not let my lord be angry that I cannot rise in your presence. I am having my period. So despite his search, he did not find the household images. Jacob, now angered, confronted Laban and demanded, What crime or offense have I committed that you should so hound me? Now that you have rummaged through all my things, what have you found from your household belongings? Produce it here before your kinsmen and mine, and let them decide between the 2 of us. In the 20 years that I was under you, no ewe or she-goat of yours ever miscarried, and I have never eaten rams from your flock. I never brought you an animal torn by wild beasts. I made good the loss myself. You held me responsible for anything stolen by day or night. Often the scorching heat devoured me by day and frost by night, while sleep fled from my eyes. Of the 20 years I have now spent in your household, I served you for 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, while you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham and the fear of Isaac, had not been on my side, you would have now sent me away empty-handed. But God saw my plight and the fruits of my toil, and last night he reproached you. Laban replied to Jacob, The daughters are mine, the children are mine, the flocks are mine, everything you see belongs to me. What can I now do for my own daughters and for the children they have borne? Come, now let us make a covenant, you and I, and it will be a treaty between you and me. Then Jacob took a stone and set it up as a sacred pillar. Jacob said to his kinsmen, Gather stones. So they got stones and made a mound, and they ate there at the mound. Laban called it Jegar Sahaduth, but Jacob called it Gilead. Laban said, This mound will be a witness from now on between you and me. That is why it was named Gilead, and also Mizpah, for he said, May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters or take other wives besides my daughters, know that even though no one else is there, God will be a witness between you and me." Laban said further to Jacob, "Here is this mound, and here is the sacred pillar that I have set up between you and me. This mound will be a witness, and this is a sacred pillar. This sacred pillar will be switch back change the tree." Laban said further to Jacob, "Here is this mound, and here is the sacred pillar that I have set up between you and me. This mound will be a witness, and this sacred pillar will be a witness, that, with hostile intent, I may not pass beyond this mound into your territory, nor may you pass beyond it into mine. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor and the God of their father judge between us." Jacob took the oath by the fear of his father Isaac. He then offered a sacrifice on the mountain and invited his kinsmen to share in the meal. When they had eaten, they passed the night on the mountain. The book of Matthew, chapter 26, verses 1 to 30. When Jesus finished all these words, he said to his disciples, "You know that in 2 days' time it will be Passover, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people assembled in the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and they consulted together to arrest Jesus by treachery and put him to death. But they said, "Not during the festival, that there may not be a riot among the people." Now when Jesus was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of costly perfumed oil and poured it on his head while he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant and said, "Why this waste? It could have been sold for much and the money given to the poor." Since Jesus knew this, he said to them, "Why do you make trouble for the woman? She has done a good thing for me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this perfumed oil upon my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be spoken of in memory of her." Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" They paid him 30 pieces of silver, and from that time on he looked for an opportunity to hand him over. On the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples approached Jesus and said, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, 'The teacher says, my appointed time draws near. In your house I shall celebrate the Passover with my disciples.'" The disciples then did as Jesus ordered and prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, "Amen, I say to you, one of you will betray me." Deeply distressed at this, they began to say to him, one after the other, "Surely it is not I, Lord." He said in reply, "He who has dipped his hand into the dish with me is the one who will betray me. The Son of Man indeed goes, as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better for that man if he had never been born." Then Judas, his betrayer, said in reply, "Surely it is not I, Rabbi." He answered, "You have said so." While they were eating, Jesus took bread and said the blessing and broke it and gave it to his disciples. "Take and eat. This is my body." Then he took a cup, gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood of the covenant, which will be shed on behalf of many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, from now on, I shall not drink this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it with you, new in the kingdom of my Father." Then, after singing a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Thus ends the reading for today. Never walk alone.